Hey folks, Gway. Last week, Madison Cawthorn, a congressional representative out of North Carolina, a Republican, said something that I agree with. I don't agree with the words he used, I agree with the principle of what he was saying. And chances are, I don't necessarily agree with why he was saying it either, but we'll come to that in just a second. He was recorded giving a talk, and in the talk, he warned the group that was there that young men are being demasculated. That they're being demasculated. They're being removed of their ability to stand up and fight for their rights, to speak up and to say what needs to be said. He actually says that testosterone is at a historic low, apparently, and he does say that he has data to prove that, and he can get into that if you contact him. Later on, he asks mothers, the mothers that are in the room, he says, if you're raising a son, raise him to be a monster. Of course, the media flipped. Raise your sons to be monsters. From the context of what he was speaking, it's not hard to see that he wasn't saying raise them to be evil, raise them to be malicious, raise them to be murderers, raise them to be rapists, raise them to be haters of others, devourers of people. His spokesperson, Luke Ball, later confirmed, he said what the congressperson was urging parents to do was to raise up strong, godly men who are warriors for truth and morality. I agree with the representative. We should be raising up a generation, not just men and women. We should be raising up a generation. We should be encouraging the generations that are already here to stand up to be godly warriors of truth and morality. We should be raising them up to be Christian leaders. I agree with that. Wholeheartedly, I agree with that. I agree. We should be teaching our young people how to live as Jesus would ask us to live. How to live in community as Jesus asks us to live in community. How to treat our neighbors as Jesus asks us to treat our neighbors. We should be raising up a generation of people who want to love God with all their heart, mind, soul, and body by living a Christ-like life. A life where we are willing to sacrifice for those around us. A life where we are willing to be merciful, forgiving, patient. A life where we are willing to offer ourselves without any possibility of an earthly reward, knowing that everything we do for the others around us, we build up for ourselves treasures in heaven, not here on earth. That we would be willing to sacrifice all that we are. That we would be willing to share all that we have, our time, our talents, our treasure, with the people around us to allow them to have a more abundant and prosperous life. That we should be willing to live as Jesus lived, without thought of possession, without thought of wealth, without thought of income, trusting completely that God will provide for our needs. I think he's right that we should be raising up a generation of people who would stand beside the vulnerable, who would go and speak against the powers, against the authorities, against the systems that continuously prosper by keeping others underfoot. A generation of people that would be willing to give themselves to the mission of eliminating oppressive structures, of bringing about an egalitarian world, of making sure that everybody around them, people they know, people they don't know, people in their immediate neighborhood and the people that live in those neighborhoods that they don't necessarily want to travel to, that everyone around them has everything they need to live a happy, healthy, and productive life. I think we should be raising up a generation that's willing to speak to those in power and to say, stop, enough. Enough. Enough with giving to those who already have more than they could ever possibly spend, more than they could ever possibly use. Enough giving to those corporations and those industries that are using up what is left of this world for their own immediate, present day profits. Enough ignoring the dangers that our rivers, our streams, our lakes, our oceans are in. Enough ignoring the damage that is being done to our atmosphere, to our forests, our vegetations, to our landscape. Enough ignoring those people that have been harmed after centuries of historical violence and oppression. We need to raise up a generation of people who are willing to speak up against the monsters of our world. So I agree. We need to raise up a generation of strong, godly warriors for truth and for Christ's morality. We need to raise up a generation of people that would bring about a revolution of love. We need to raise up a generation of people that ultimately would strive to bring God's kingdom to this world. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord's face be made to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord's countenance be lifted up to you. May you always know the peace of being in the Lord's presence. And I pray that you and I would always seek to empower, to strengthen, to encourage the next generation. This generation, the generation that was before us, to be these kinds of people, so that we could bring about a world of love, a world of peace, a world of understanding, a world of prosperity and abundance and patience and forgiveness and mercy, a world that Jesus would have wanted us to bring about. Amen. Numultus.